Jungkook couldn't hold it when Jimin apologized. Their hug went viral, revolving hearts loudly crying face. The hallway shook when Jimin slammed the studio door open, breath ragged, eyes blazing. "Jungkook, stop running from me." His voice cracked through the dim, echoing corridor as the cameras, still rolling for the behind-the-scenes shoot, caught every trembling second. Jungkook froze mid-stride. Sweat slid down his neck, his fists clenching so tightly the veins stood out stark against his skin. The LED light above him flickered, humming like static between them. He didn't turn around. He couldn't, not yet, not with his heart pounding like something trapped. Jimin's footsteps approached fast, uneven, as though he was fighting his own breath. Jungkook felt the warmth of him from behind before he heard the whisper, "Please, just look at me." The words dug into him like something sharp and unexpected. He inhaled slowly, chest rising and falling with a restless agitation that had been building for days. The conflict between them had reached a breaking point during filming, miscommunications, missed cues, a painfully cold silence that the staff pretended not to notice. Jungkook finally turned. Jimin was standing there, shoulders trembling, eyes bright with the kind of regret that could knock the air out of someone. His makeup was smudged from the chase, his hands shaking at his sides as if he didn't know what to do with them anymore. "I'm sorry," Jimin whispered, voice fragile but unwavering. "I messed up. I know I did. And I should have said it earlier, I should have." His breath caught. "You didn't deserve how I treated you today." The air tightened around them. Jungkook's jaw flexed. "You think that's what this is about?" Jimin blinked, stunned by the magnitude of emotion in his voice. Jungkook stepped closer, every movement controlled but heavy with something rawer than anger, something deeper. The hallway seemed to shrink, the world narrowing to the inches between them and the camera quietly capturing every second. "You ignored me for 2 days, Jungkook said quietly. "Not just during filming. 2 days, Hyung." His voice trembled despite his best effort to keep it steady. "And you know how I get when things feel unresolved." Jimin swallowed hard, his guilt visible in the way his eyes softened and his shoulders curled inward. "I didn't ignore you because I was angry," he said. "I ignored you because I was scared." Jungkook's breath faltered. "Scared of what?" "Of what I'd say if I stayed near you," Jimin confessed, voice almost inaudible. "Of how obvious my feelings would look. I thought distance would protect us both. But it only hurt you, and I hate myself for that." Silence flooded between them, thick and electric. Jungkook wasn't sure which hit him harder, the apology, or the confession that slipped in between the words like something too honest to stay hidden. He stepped forward again until their foreheads nearly touched, until Jimin's breath fanned against his lips. "I'm tired," Jungkook whispered. "Tired of pretending I'm not bothered. Tired of acting like your silence doesn't tear me apart." Jimin's eyes glistened. "Then don't pretend." That was it. A quiet sound broke from Jungkook's throat, something small, uncontrolled, shaped like pain finally letting itself be heard. His chest tightened, and before he could stop himself, his hands lifted, gripping Jimin's arms. His fingers curled into the fabric of Jimin's jacket as if grounding himself. Jimin exhaled shakily, startled by the sudden contact, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he placed a trembling hand on Jungkook's back, tentative at first, then firmer, gentler, full of something desperately sincere. And Jungkook, who had been holding everything in, finally broke. His forehead dropped onto Jimin's shoulder, breath hitching sharply, and he muttered, voice muffled, "Don't do that again. Don't disappear on me." Jimin wrapped both arms around him in an instant, pulling him close with a tenderness that felt like an answer to every unspoken fear. "I won't," he promised. "Not ever again." The hallway air thickened with emotion, the soft shaking of Jungkook's shoulders, the way Jimin held him so tightly it felt like he was trying to protect him from the whole world. And the camera, unblinking, merciless, captured the moment their hug deepened into something that looked too real, too fragile, too intimate to be staged. Jungkook's breath finally steadied against Jimin's neck, the warmth of his cheek brushing the soft skin there. Jimin closed his eyes, holding him as if he'd been waiting for this contact just as long. When they finally pulled back, slowly, reluctantly, their eyes met. And there, in that unguarded space between them, everything finally made sense. The video would go viral within hours, but for now, in the quiet corridor with lights humming overhead, it was just them, two hearts finally beating in the same direction, two truths no longer hidden behind silence. And for the first time in days, Jungkook could breathe. Jungkook hadn't spoken a word since the hug, at least not out loud. His thoughts were louder than the hum of the equipment being reset around him. Every time he remembered the way Jimin's arms tightened around him, something inside his chest beat too hard, too fast, too close to the edge of something dangerous. Jimin stood a few steps away, pretending to adjust his microphone even though the staff had already done it for him. His fingers trembled slightly, tapping the cable, tapping again, tapping until Jungkook finally noticed. "You're doing that thing again," Jungkook murmured, voice low enough that only Jimin could hear. His eyes dropped to the restless hand. "You only tap when you're nervous." Jimin stopped immediately, shoulders stiffening. "I'm fine." "You're lying." "And you're staring," Jimin whispered back, heat rising beneath his words. Before Jungkook could answer, the director called them over for the next take, an emotionally charged scene that involved the two of them acting out a confrontation. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. They took their positions on opposite sides of the set. The room was dim, framed by cold lead strips casting long shadows across the floor. Jimin inhaled deeply. Jungkook rolled his shoulders, trying to shake the buzzing under his skin. Action. Silence stretched, then broke under the sharp crack of Jimin's voice. "Why won't you trust me anymore?" His acting was too real. Too raw. His eyes glistened the same way they had in the hallway earlier, and it made Jungkook's heartbeat stumble. "I'm trying," Jungkook answered, his lines sounding less like acting and more like confession. "But you keep hiding things from me." "That's not what I'm doing." "You disappeared for 2 days." "You know why." Jungkook stepped forward instinctively, energy spiking. Jimin mirrored the movement. Neither remembered their marks. Neither cared. "You can't shut me out and expect everything to stay the same," Jungkook said, voice tighter than the script demanded. "You can't run away every time things get hard." "And what about you?" Jimin shot back, eyes burning. "You hold everything in until it cracks you open like earlier." Jungkook's breath hitched. Jimin froze, realizing what he said. The director leaned forward in his chair, intrigued by the intensity but unaware of the truth beneath it. Jungkook whispered, barely audible, "Don't talk about that here." "Cut," the director finally said, but the word floated uselessly because neither of them moved. Jungkook turned away first. Jimin caught his wrist instantly. "Let go," Jungkook said. "No," Jimin answered softly, gripping tighter. A few staff members shifted awkwardly, unsure if they should intervene. The air around them vibrated with something volatile, something private and charged. Jungkook didn't pull back. He just lowered his head. "What are you trying to do?" he whispered. "Fix what I broke," Jimin said. "I can't do that if you won't look at me." "You already apologized." That wasn't enough. Their breath mingled, too close for safety, too intense to ignore. Jungkook could feel Jimin's pulse racing through the contact. "Hyung," Jungkook whispered, voice trembling. "Say what you're feeling," Jimin urged. "Say it. Even if you think I don't want to hear it." Jungkook lifted his head slowly, eyes dark, conflicted. "If I say it, everything changes." "Then let it change," Jimin said, stepping closer, closing the gap with a boldness that startled even himself. Jungkook's chest rose sharply. "You don't know what you're asking for." "I know exactly what I'm asking for." A second passed. Then Jimin leaned in, not touching him, but close enough that the warmth of his breath caressed Jungkook's cheek. The kind of closeness that made Jungkook's composure unravel at the edges. "Don't do this," Jungkook whispered, but there was no conviction in his voice. "Do what?" Jimin murmured. "Tell you the truth." A loud crash cut him off as one of the lighting rigs toppled over. Staff rushed to catch it before it hit the floor, shouting in panic. The spell between them shattered abruptly. Jimin stumbled back. Jungkook blinked, breathless. "Everyone take a break," the director barked, waving them off. Jungkook walked away first this time, but not fast enough to hide the tremor in his steps. Jimin followed him into an empty rehearsal room, the door shutting behind them with a heavy thud. "Say it," Jimin said again, voice low, desperate. "Please." Jungkook turned slowly, eyes stormy with restraint. He was seconds from losing. "You don't understand," he said. "Everything I've been holding back, it's not small. It's not harmless. I'm not fragile," Jimin answered. "You're not listening," Jungkook shot back. "If I tell you what I feel, it won't be something you can walk away from. It won't be something either of us can pretend didn't happen." Jimin's breath faltered. Then don't pretend. Jungkook took one long step toward him. Then another. Until they were inches apart again, until the air crackled like static between them. You're playing with fire, Jungkook whispered. Maybe I want to get burned. Jungkook inhaled sharply, and his restraint finally cracked. His voice dropped to a confessional murmur. You drive me crazy. Every day. Every time you look at me like that. Every time you disappear and come back with apologies that tear me apart. I can't think straight around you. I can't sleep. I can't focus. I can't. Jimin's eyes widened. Jungkook shook his head as if fighting himself. I feel too much, Hyung. Too much for you. And I don't know what to do with it anymore. Jimin's breath caught, his voice trembling. Then give it to me. All of it. The room fell silent except for their uneven breathing. The tension between them was no longer hidden, no longer uncertain. It was a living thing, throbbing in the air, pulsing in the space where their bodies almost touched. Jungkook closed his eyes, trying to steady himself, but when he opened them again, Jimin was already reaching for him. And this time, Jungkook didn't move away. Jimin's fingers hovered near Jungkook's jaw as if he wasn't sure whether touching him would save them or destroy everything completely. Jungkook stood perfectly still, breathing hard, every muscle wound tight as if a single wrong movement would send him spiraling. Why aren't you pushing me away? Jimin asked softly. His voice trembled with hope and fear woven together. Jungkook's throat bobbed as he swallowed. Because I don't want to. The confession dropped between them like a spark onto gasoline. Jimin's breath hitched, his gaze flicking from Jungkook's eyes to his shaking hands. He pressed a palm to his chest as if his heart refused to stay still. Then why do you keep running from me? You think I'm running? Jungkook let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Hyung, I'm hanging on by threads. If I don't step back sometimes, you'll what? Jimin whispered. You'll hurt me. You won't. Jungkook shook his head, eyes burning. I'll hurt myself. Jimin's breath faltered. His hand slowly lowered, fingertips grazing Jungkook's forearm with a feather-light touch. Jungkook inhaled sharply, eyes fluttering shut for a moment. I don't want to be the reason you hurt, Jimin said, voice breaking. I want to be the reason you breathe. The intensity of the words knocked the air out of Jungkook. He opened his eyes again, dark, conflicted, hungry for truth yet terrified of it. Jimin took a step closer, but before he could say another word, the doorknob rattled violently. Both men froze as the door flung open and Taehyung stepped inside, eyes flicking between their two close bodies, their flushed faces. The tension crackling in the air like lightning trapped between walls. Oh, Taehyung said slowly, blinking. So this is a rehearsal? Jimin stepped back too quickly, nearly tripping. Jungkook exhaled sharply, rubbing the back of his neck, trying to force his pulse into something manageable. Taehyung closed the door behind him, leaning against it with crossed arms. You two are terrible liars. Jungkook stiffened. Don't start. I'm not starting anything, Taehyung replied. I walked in and saw, whatever that was. Jimin bristled, face flushed. Nothing happened. Exactly my point, Taehyung said. Nothing happened, but it almost did. And you both look like you're about to explode. Jungkook turned away, jaw clenched. You don't understand. Oh, I understand enough, Taehyung muttered, stepping into the room. The entire staff is whispering about the hallway incident. That hug. It's already circulating internally. People are saying it looked too real. Jimin's breath caught. Who leaked it? No one yet, Taehyung replied. But it's only a matter of time. Jungkook's heartbeat skidded. We're screwed. Only if you two keep acting like this, Taehyung said. Whatever is going on between you, it's noticeable. And it's not just me. The director asked me if you two had a fight or if you were something else. Jimin's eyes widened with alarm. What did you say? I told him you were exhausted, Taehyung answered. Which is true. Emotionally, physically, mentally. And frankly, you look like you might pass out from tension. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, pacing. This is a disaster. No, Jimin said suddenly, voice steady and startlingly firm. It's only a disaster if we keep hiding. Taehyung slowly raised a brow. So you're admitting something? Jimin turned toward Jungkook instead of answering. You said you feel too much. So do I. I'm done pretending I don't. Jungkook's breath shook in his chest. Taehyung lifted both hands. All right, I'm going to step out before I accidentally witness whatever emotional meltdown or confession you two are building up to. He paused at the doorway, then added quietly, but whatever this is, don't ruin each other in the process. The door shut, silence returned, thicker, heavier, more dangerous. Jungkook pressed his palms against the wall, bowing his head as if the weight of the moment was too much. His voice trembled. Why now? Why are you saying all this now? Because I can't keep watching you hurt every time I step close, Jimin answered. And I can't keep hurting myself pretending I feel nothing. Jungkook turned slowly, eyes searching Jimin's with a desperation that made Jimin's heart squeeze painfully. What are you asking from me? Jimin stepped closer until they were a breath apart. Tell me how long you've been feeling this. Jungkook's lips parted, but no sound came out. Jimin cupped the back of his neck gently. Tell me, Jungkook. Jungkook's eyes glistened, his voice breaking free in a whisper. Too long. Longer than I ever meant to. The impact of the words hit Jimin like a blow to the chest. His hand tightened slightly where it rested on Jungkook's skin. And you hid it because? Jimin asked, though the tremor in his voice showed he already feared the answer. Jungkook's breath shuddered. Because I thought if you knew, you'd leave. Jimin shook his head slowly, eyes softening with something painfully deep. I'm right here. I didn't leave. You might, Jungkook whispered. Then stop pushing me away, Jimin said. Silence thickened again, swirling with heat and fear and something on the edge of breaking open. Jungkook looked at him like he was fighting himself. Jimin stepped even closer, their bodies almost touching, and whispered, What do you want, Jungkook? The question hit him like a shock. He opened his mouth. Closed it, then, finally, the truth slipped out, soft, trembling, raw. You, Jungkook breathed. I want you. Jimin's eyes widened, not with surprise, but with something warmer, deeper, more dangerous. He lifted a hand to Jungkook's cheek, and Jungkook didn't flinch. He leaned in, slightly, barely. Enough to show he wasn't running anymore. Jimin's breath trembled. The air wrapped around them like a slow, rising tide. And for the first time, neither of them stepped away. Jungkook's confession still echoed faintly inside the rehearsal room, vibrating through the air like a note that refused to fade. Jimin stood so close he could feel the warmth radiating from Jungkook's skin, the quiet tremor running down his spine, the tension that made the air feel too thick to inhale. Jungkook didn't move, didn't speak, as if any wrong shift would break whatever delicate balance had formed between them. His eyes flicked down to Jimin's hand brushing his cheek, and he exhaled shakily, chest rising and falling with raw, unfiltered emotion. You want me, Jimin whispered, repeating the confession as if testing its weight. But do you trust me? The question hit Jungkook harder than he expected. His throat tightened. His eyes dropped to the floor. He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Not yet. Jimin's fingers slid from his cheek, tracing the line of his jaw before falling away. The sudden loss of warmth made Jungkook inhale sharply, like something inside him recoiled. You're still scared, Jimin murmured. Jungkook's jaw clenched. Of course I'm scared. Everything I just admitted, you could use it to destroy me. Jimin's expression darkened, hurt flickering across his face. Why would I ever? A sudden knock on the door interrupted him. Loud. Impatient. They both froze. Jungkook? Jimin? Are you two in there? The manager's voice sliced through the room. The producers want to talk to you. Now. Jimin exchanged a look with Jungkook, tense, uncertain. Jungkook rubbed his palms together before wiping them on his jeans, unable to hide the shaking. What do they want? Jimin asked through the door. It's about the hallway footage. Jimin's heart dropped to the floor. Jungkook's face drained of color. No. Not already. Jimin stepped toward the door, but Jungkook grabbed his wrist, firm but trembling. Don't go out there alone, Jungkook whispered. If they want explanations, we give them together. Jimin swallowed hard, then nodded. They stepped out into the hallway, but the sight waiting for them cut through their chest like ice. The entire corridor was buzzing with whispers. Staff members stared discreetly, or not discreetly, at the two of them as they passed. A few glanced away when Jungkook met their eyes, but it was too late. The damage was spreading. Inside the meeting room, the producers sat rigidly behind the table, arms crossed, faces unreadable. A large monitor was paused on a still frame of their hallway hug, Jungkook clinging to Jimin, eyes closed, shoulders shaking. Jimin holding him tightly, protectively, with a vulnerability rarely seen on camera. The image was devastatingly intimate. "Take a seat," the head producer said. Jungkook stiffened. Jimin subtly shifted his chair closer to him, not touching, but within reach. The producer pressed play, the video looped, Jimin whispering the apology, Jungkook stumbling into him, the raw emotion flooding the screen in high definition. Was this scripted? The producer asked. Silence. No, Jimin said first. Jungkook swallowed. It wasn't acting. That's the issue, the producer replied. This footage is too real. Too emotional. And someone on staff leaked a still frame. It's already circulating outside the studio. Jungkook felt his stomach twist violently. How far did it spread? We don't know yet. But the higher-ups want a controlled response ready in case this escalates. Jimin leaned forward. And what exactly are you expecting us to say? Fans are already interpreting the moment, the producer said. We need clarity. Was this an emotional moment between colleagues? Or is there something more we need to address? The room felt suddenly suffocating. Jingin's gaze flicked toward Jungkook gently, asking silently, should we tell them? Should we protect this? Should we protect each other? But Jungkook's fear surged. His voice came out quietly, cracking slightly. It was a misunderstanding. A stressful day. Nothing more. Jimin's heart shattered at the words, though he hid it behind a calm mask. The producer nodded slowly. Good. We'll draft a short statement clarifying everything. No rumors. No speculation. Jungkook nodded numbly. Jimin didn't. And what if I'm not comfortable lying? Jimin asked. The entire room stilled. Jungkook's breath hitched. The producers stiffened. The manager's eyes widened in panic. The head producer sighed heavily. Jimin, you know the implications. I know exactly what they are, Jimin interrupted. But I'm tired of hiding everything. Tired of pretending we're made of glass. Jungkook turned sharply toward him, voice barely above a whisper. Hyung, stop. No, Jimin said. I won't. He faced the producers again. I won't say something happened if it didn't. But I also won't deny what I feel just because it makes people uncomfortable. Jungkook's pulse raced with fear and longing colliding violently. The meeting spiraled into forced caution, tense warnings, and quiet threats wrapped in polite industry language. By the time they were dismissed, Jungkook's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Jimin walked beside him silently down the empty hallway until Jungkook suddenly stopped. You shouldn't have said that, Jungkook whispered, trembling. You put everything at risk. Jimin stepped closer, lowering his voice. I risked it because I'm not afraid of what I feel for you. Jungkook closed his eyes, pained. But I am. Jimin touched his arm gently. Then let me carry the fear for a while. Jungkook's breath cracked. He looked up at Jimin with eyes full of fear, longing, anger, love, everything he had been trying to bury. You can't protect me from this, Jungkook whispered. I can try. And if the world turns on us? Jungkook asked. Then we face it together. Jungkook's voice came out raw. I don't know how. Jimin cupped his cheek tenderly, thumb brushing his skin. Then let me teach you. Slowly. Patiently. As long as it takes. Jungkook's eyes glistened. The wall he had built so desperately began to crumble under the weight of Jimin's unwavering certainty. Jungkook finally whispered, Why do you believe in me so much? Because I see you, Jimin answered softly. Even when you're hiding. Jungkook swallowed, voice barely a breath. And what do you see now? Jimin brushed a strand of hair from Jungkook's face with gentle fingers. I see someone worth falling for. Jungkook's knees almost gave out, and this time, he didn't step away. The world outside was beginning to move, but inside Jungkook's apartment the silence held a fragile, hesitant peace. Jungkook stood by the window, arms crossed loosely, watching sunlight crawl across the floorboards. His hair was messy, his eyes tired but clearer than they had been in days. Jimin sat on the couch behind him, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, watching Jungkook with an expression that held more tenderness than worry now. For the first time in a long while, nothing was being forced. Nothing was being acted. There were no cameras, no producers, no staff whispering behind closed doors. It was just them. Jungkook finally spoke, voice soft but steady. The footage leaked publicly this morning. Jimin inhaled slowly, prepared but still wounded by the truth settling between them. How bad is it? Jungkook turned around with a small, almost disbelieving smile. Bad. And good. People are supportive. More than I expected. Jimin blinked, surprised. Supportive. Some are calling it the most honest moment they've ever seen from us, Jungkook said. Others say it felt human. Raw. Beautiful. Jimin looked down at his hands, letting out a breath he'd been holding for far too long. I thought the world would crush us. They might have, Jungkook admitted gently. If we kept pretending. Jimin lifted his gaze, eyes searching Jungkook's face. And now, Jungkook said quietly, walking toward him, I want to stop being afraid. Jimin's breath trembled when Jungkook sat beside him. Not too close. But close enough to make his heart shift inside his chest. Jungkook's fingers brushed lightly against Jimin's hand, tentative, seeking permission. Jimin didn't move away. He curled his fingers around Jungkook's in response, their hands fitting together with surprising ease, like something they both had been building toward without realizing. Jungkook exhaled shakily. Hyung. I've spent so long fearing what loving you would cost me. Jimin's heart stuttered. You don't have to say it if I do, Jungkook whispered. I need to. His thumb brushed Jimin's knuckles, gentle and trembling at the same time. I'm tired of hiding the best part of my life, he said. I'm tired of pretending these feelings make me weak. They don't. You don't. Jimin blinked hard, vision blurring for a moment. Jungkook, let me finish, Jungkook breathed. Jimin nodded, lips parting slightly. Jungkook reached up and cupped the side of Jimin's face with the lightest touch, as if holding something precious. When you apologized to me that day, when you held me, it broke something open inside me. And I realized I didn't want to fix it. I didn't want to go back. Jimin leaned into the touch without thinking, closing his eyes. You don't have to go back. Not anymore. Jungkook's voice softened. Then stay with me. Jimin's eyes opened, startled by the simplicity of the request. Stay. Not as a co-star, Jungkook whispered. Not as someone who's supposed to be just a friend. Stay as Jimin. Stay as the person he breathed out, the words shaking free. The person I love. The room went still, silent except for their breathing. Jimin stared at him, stunned, fragile, overwhelmed. For a moment he couldn't speak. His throat tightened too much, emotions flooding too fast, but then he moved. He lifted both hands slowly, gently guiding Jungkook's face closer. The touch was soft, reverent, full of 1,000 unsaid promises, and with a voice barely above a breath, Jimin answered, I love you too. Jungkook let out a shaky laugh, half disbelieving, half relieved, as he leaned his forehead against Jimin's. Their breaths mingled, warm and trembling, the weight of everything they'd survived pressing into the moment like a final punctuation. Jimin whispered, we'll face the world together, right? Jungkook nodded, eyes closing. Together. Always. And then Jimin pulled Jungkook into a quiet, gentle hug, not desperate like before, not fragile, but steady and warm and full. A hug that didn't need cameras or explanations. A hug that existed simply because they wanted it to. Jungkook's arms wrapped around him without hesitation. Outside, the sun climbed higher, spilling light across the room, bright, hopeful, unafraid. For the first time, they weren't running from anything. They weren't hiding, they weren't breaking, they were beginning. And the world, which had already fallen in love with their vulnerability, simply watched as two hearts finally found their place with each other.